I'm just gonna start recording now, and then I'll just start off praying, and we'll just go ahead and go in because it's 33 verses. Justin, you already know
Hmm.
my style, man. It's hard for me to do 33 verses, but um, yeah, we're gonna have to try today. So,
Yeah.
all right, Father, thank you so much just for just this opportunity to just study your word yet again, Father. We know that each and every single time we study your word, we draw nearer to you, we draw closer to you, we get insight, hope, motivation, just everything we need for life and godliness, Father. So we ask in Jesus' name that you please just do your work, Father. Have your way through your word. Let every single word that's uttered, every phrase that we see, every verse, Father, just touch each and every single one of our hearts. And please speak to it, each and every single one of us, Father. We ask that your spirit, please increase in this study, Father, and in our lives as we decrease, Father. We want you to just have your way in our lives and just be our Lord each and every single day, but especially right now in this moment, Father. You're God. You what you have to say goes, and we're just here to listen to what you have to say, Father. So we're excited for this lesson and to grow with one another, Father, grow in unity and fellowship and love for one another and for you, Father. We're excited for this study, and we ask that you please just bless it, Father. Touch it, Lord, because when you touch something, miraculous things happen, Father. So we're excited. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
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 All
Do you want me
right.
to start?
Yeah, man. This
Let me
study.
break
Oh,
down.
oh, like starting off or just in.
Yeah.
I was thinking. I think 1 through 13 is a good stopping place. Like that's a lot to do, but
Yeah, that look because it's one section.
yeah, I was thinking 1 through 13, then 14 through 22, and then just go ahead and finishing out with 23 to 33.
The rest. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, and
Only,
oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
What were you trying to say?
Oh, nothing. I was reading verse 1.
Oh, okay, yeah. Let's go ahead then.
For I do not want you to be ignorant of the fact, brothers and sisters, that our ancestors were all under the cloud, and that they all passed through the sea. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. They all ate the same spiritual food and drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them, and that rock was Christ. Nevertheless, God was not pleased with most of them. Their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. Now these things occurred as examples to keep us from setting our hearts on evil things as they did. Do not be idolaters, as some of them were. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in revelry. We should not commit sexual immorality, as some of them did, and in one day 23,000 of them died. We should not test Christ, as some of them did, and were killed by snakes. And do not grumble, as some of them did, and were killed by the destroying angel. These things happened to them as examples and were written down as warnings for us, on whom the culmination of the ages has come. So if you think you're standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to man. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. The beginning part, I remember reading of Paul talking about a cloud of witnesses.
Yeah.
And how he keeps up that imagery, because when I think of a cloud, I just think of like something that looms over us, like our ancestors, the people who came before us.
Mm-hmm.
So I like how he's keeping up that analogy to help the Corinthians understand that what they're going through isn't something new. Like this is something plenty of people in the Old Testament, plenty of people in the New Testament have had to go through. So I feel like he's using that as encouragement to say, it goes down to verse 13 too, where it says like, even when we are tempted, God will provide a way out. So I feel like that's when he's talking about the cloud of witnesses before us, he's talking about how God is trying to encourage us, or he's had several people go before us, so we shouldn't be discouraged if we fail.
Right.
Because we will fail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Like it's so much with this, man. Like, man, first thing I'll just point out is like verse 4 got me. Like it said, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them right there. That spiritual rock that followed them. Like, how does a rock follow you? Like, but it's capital R, and then Paul, finishes off and he's being more specific and he says that rock is Christ. So like, man, these our ancestors had everything. Like they had the cloud with them. The cloud is God's presence. It's the Shekinah glory. It sheltered them from the brutal sun during the day, and at night it comforted them with heat. I guess because it was a pillar of fire. That's how it looked like, and that's probably what it came off from it. But like God's presence and His glory was constantly with the Israelites, and they could see it. Like it was with them, over them, and they could feel His, not just feel His presence, but He was leading them, telling them what direction to go next, guiding them through life. And like, man, this is so powerful because Paul's building it up just with those first few verses. Like he was like, man, they had God's presence. They were baptized, like, and oh man, I'm gonna just read it, man. In verse 2, and all were baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea. So we just talked about the cloud, like you got the Holy Spirit with you, but then baptism, like in the sea, like all were baptized under Moses. That is so powerful. Like, why say Moses? We're not baptized under Moses, but Moses is a type of Christ, like we talked about in the book of Exodus. Like, Moses is just a picture of the coming Christ, and like just like some people in the Bible are, right? So Moses helped the Israelites to come out of slavery, out of captivity, out of their sin, just like Christ helps us. And then also, yeah, like they came through the Red Sea. Like God parted the Red Sea. This was a miraculous miracle, something they can't do. We can't save ourselves. Only God can, right? So baptism again is type of Christ. So they said they were baptized through Moses. Moses is the type of Christ. We're baptized through Christ. Like, so Paul's like, he's like, man, he's coming with it, man. He just got started, man. And then he said, like, and all ate the same spiritual food in verse 3, man. Like the spiritual food he's talking about is the manna. We know that they drank from the rock. The rock's Christ. Like, sometimes God will always just provide food and water for them. Just anything that they needed, He provided, right? And so He did all these miraculous things for them. And then it gets to verse 5, man. Oh my gosh, like that's the worst. Verse 5, man. Um, but with many of them, God was not pleased with them, for they all were overthrown in the wilderness. What does your version say at the end?
Their bodies were scattered in the wilderness.
That
Pretty
is,
simple.
man, that
Yes.
is sad, man.
Yeah. What hits me about this is that during that time, like the people with Moses, they were physically being followed by like a pillar of fire or a cloud or a pillar of smoke, like all these things. So they could physically see God, and they still stumbled and failed. Like, so like, even for like in Hebrews, like our faith is from things that we can't see.
Right.
Like, how much easier would it be to fail when we are going through the valleys of our life when we don't actually physically see God, compared to like the people who could even know the presence of God was there? They still stumbled. They were still scattered in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
A part of that for me is sad, but that's also encouraging for me to know that God still watches over those people. Like He still watches those people who are going to stumble like that.
Right.
Yeah. I think the first time when I read stories like this and see people just forget about God, and I was like, how can you do this? Like, you have seen God. But when I myself actually like have been through things, and then like God has like literally delivered me, and later on I just questioned about God, and I was like, wow, that actually could happen to anyone. Like, no one, like, they forget about God because, like, I don't know, like, we are just so prone to forget.
I know some believers too who will ask, if God exists, why doesn't He show Himself and like prove Himself? And I would say, man, there are so many times in the Bible where He does, but then people forget about Him the next week. Or like they make golden calves and like a month later or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Man, like Paul, man, I love First Corinthians, man. This study's been so crazy, man. It's just getting crazier. Like Because honestly, I didn't know these texts like this. I only knew 1 Corinthians 13 really like that. But like these, man, everything's coming together, right? I'm gonna wait to talk about like 13, 12, and 11. Cause I know everybody got a lot to say with that. But like,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
13 is a good verse because it wraps everything up.
Yeah, and it's like he's still building up to that. And like, but like for here, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you,
Okay.
yeah.
But yeah, like I don't know how many Israelites there were in that ancient time period when they were when they came out of Egypt and they were in a tabernacle and going from wilderness to wilderness. But I do know it's probably like 2 million, 3 million total. Like, and then only 2 of them got to make it to the promised land. Like that's the whole point of God bringing them out of Egypt. He promised that I'm gonna take you to the promised land, and only 2 of them out of that whole entire generation got to go into it. And that was Paul's whole point in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 27, but I keep under my body and bring it into submission, lest that I by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. Like he wasn't trying to be disqualified. He wasn't trying to miss out on his blessing and on his opportunity. And like promised land, a lot of times people think that means heaven. It doesn't even mean heaven. Like I always thought that. Like it really means promised land in a sense means experiencing heaven here on earth. You can experience heaven right now. Like people think I gotta wait until I get there to experience it. No, you can experience it right now. You can have God's blessing, his miracles. Like you can experience him like you will in heaven right now. I mean, not really, but you get what I'm saying. Like, like it's a picture of walking into the promises of God. Like that's what the promised land is. And like there's certain requirements and stuff that comes with that. You can't just live any kind of way, right? And that's what the Israelites is doing. Like in verse 10, it says, neither murmur ye as some also murmured and were destroyed of the destroyer. And don't tempt Christ. Like you're tempting Christ by thinking you can live any type of way and do what you want to do, and you're testing him, right? So you're tempting him. So that would just lead to destruction. But I'm gonna wait to talk about that. But like, here goes some points I had, man, just to talk about verse 5 and 6, man. I'm gonna read I'm gonna wait to read it. But like, yeah, here goes some points. So for all their blessings and spiritual experiences, they entered into what for all their blessings and spiritual experiences, they never entered into what God really had for them. So we talked about that. But then here goes a quote I saw a long time ago. It says, "Don't confuse God providing for you to mean he is pleased with you. He provided manna daily in the children of Israel's years of wandering, yet still consider them rebellious, untrustworthy, and fruitless." Right? Because how many times did we study Justin with the book of Exodus that Moses and God argue about whose people are these? Like, those are your people. No, those are your people, right? So yeah, man, that just shows how how faithful God is. Like he's just continually giving us opportunity after opportunity to, just to get it right every single day, man. And like, what do we do with those opportunities and those privileges, man? So like the biggest thing I learned just from here that I really didn't get before was like, I've been getting it through like studying the Pharisees or just people putting on an outward show, right? So like this whole text at the very beginning is talking about outward blessings, outward miracles, like experiencing God. Like you're baptized, you have communion. We're about to read that with verse 12 to 22. Like you're doing communion, like you're saved, right? But just because you do those outward things, going to Bible study, trying to save souls and everything, that doesn't save you. That's not going to get you to the promised land. Like God cares about your heart. He cares about where you are inwardly, because that's what like sin is an outward thing. Like stealing ain't just stealing. Uh, cursing ain't just cursing. Murdering someone ain't just murdering someone. There's a deeper sin inwardly going on that causes you to do something. So God cares about our hearts, man. So like, just because you experience outward things, or you're having all these blessings, and just because you got all those things, man, it doesn't mean you're right with God, and it doesn't mean like you're living a life that's pleasing to God either. But yeah, like this text was crazy just with those first 6 verses, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't even talk about 6 yet though, but 6, man, I'm gonna read that one too. It says, "Now these things are examples, like And then I'm gonna go ahead and read 11 too. Now all these things happen unto them for examples. Like people, uh, it's crazy how we don't learn from the past. You know what's that saying? Like if you don't know the past, you're doomed to experience it or something. You're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know that saying, ignorance is bliss. Like that's a false quote, man. I can't stand all these false quotes America got, and then like this world got, right? So like, yeah, man, like we can learn so much by learning from examples, learning from other people's experiences, and taking that wisdom and doing something with it. Like how it's hard for a young person to listen to an old person in today's time period. It's sad too, like because they got so much to say, especially the ones people are willing to listen to successful people, but how many successful people do you actually know, right? But like you can learn a lot from somebody's mistakes, but we can learn even more through the word, man. Like the Israelites are. Paul started off talking about their ancestors, and he's about to just with those examples alone, he's about to tear them up, like with what they're doing right now and how that relates to what the old Israelites did, back during Moses' time, and they all died in the wilderness. And you're about to experience the same fate because you're too prideful, just like they were. Like so they thought they had it all together too. And I know I'm talking a lot, but Justin, you remember when we did the book of David? I think you did the Sunday school lessons with the book of David with me. Yeah.
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 With
Yeah, man, it's just crazy how that relates because like the northern and the southern kingdom fell, and they were the superpower. The Israelites were the superpower when David was king and Solomon, and that was the best time period they had, like where they flourished the most. And because they entertained idols and entertained other nations, long story short, it led to their downfall. And this is what it's talking about in this passage: idols. It's like,
I like that like Paul is he always constantly ties something physical with something spiritual, because I think that's what the Corinthians need. Because as we talk about, like pretty much every chapter, the Corinthians are such carnal beings.
Right.
So he has to connect to them on a physical level before he brings something spiritual. But I like how he lists out every carnal desire that the Corinthians probably experienced. Because like in chapter 6 or 7, we were talking about how the Corinthians thought they could do whatever they want because they were automatically saved.
Right.
But not the point. Like Paul is laying out, this is what happened to idolaters. This is what happened to people with sexual immorality. This is what happened to people who ate and drank whatever they wanted, fell into sin. And he's warning them that that's going to be exactly them if they don't turn away from that, if they don't try to turn toward a forgiving God, because it doesn't matter like how far down you are, God's still going to forgive you. So I like verses 7 through 10, where Paul is just trying to connect them at their level, like where they.
Yeah, when you said that last part, I just said in my head, it doesn't matter how high or mighty, or just how much, how bad you think you got it. I mean, just how good you think you got it. Like, it's how people puff themselves up. Like God can still humble you too. He can still bring you back down. Like, it's how some people don't think, they look down at people in a bad situation. They think that will never be me, and they belittle them, and then they end up in that. Yeah.
And sometimes I'll get angry. This isn't even serious. Sometimes I'll get angry at someone doing something in traffic, and I think, gosh, what an idiot. Then I'll do the same thing the next day. I thought, oh, I guess I shouldn't be angry at that now.
Yeah.
That's totally what God does if you're like receptible to it. Some people are just like they remain ignorant in that. Like I shouldn't judge people for that, because I'm sure I do that too. But like if you are judging someone for a particular thing, I really think God will like humble you or put you in the same situation. He's going to put you through a learning experience to make you realize everyone's in the same boat. Like no one is any higher than else. We may think that there's certain hierarchies or levels of importance for people, but to God, like just the standard of Jesus and God, we're all super low. We have to have.
Right.
I like verse 13 where it says like, but when you are tempted, it's not if you're tempted. Paul knows you're going to be tempted, so he says, but when you are tempted, like God's gonna let you have a way out.
Right. Yeah, I'll go ahead. I want to wait to go to 11 or 13 because I want to give that like a lot of attention. But like with verse 6, that touched me as well because I didn't really pay attention to 7 through 10 really till like you till we build it up like you did and working together and everything. But like yeah, all that goes together, man. Like because verse 6, man, I'm gonna finish reading that. Now these things are examples to the intent we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. So like, oh my gosh, man, like one thing I need to hurry up and do a video on this and get it out on YouTube, but like just how Lot's wife. I talked about this last week. I think like with Lot's wife looking back at the city and yearning for that city, like wanting to go back to those things instead of going to the new life and the new opportunity that God's trying to take you to. Like new opportunities can be fearful and everything, but you should trust God so much you should want to go where He wants you to go instead of trying to take steps back and go back to the good old days or something. Like life goes on, right? And then like what I really think about is Esau, man. Like one of my favorite verses, Hebrews 12:6. It says, "See that no one is sexually immoral or godless like Esau, who for a single meal sold his inheritance rights as the oldest son." That is so powerful because how many people we focus on temporary stuff, like we want what pleases us now, what's pleasurable now, and we choose good things instead of the best things, right? We chase after nice things instead of the best things that are worth the most out of life for us. Like they're the most beneficial. That's what Paul talks about in verse 23. Like what's really important, what's most expedient, what really gonna edify you and others, right? And like, man, that verse is so powerful because like here goes one of my points, man. Carnal desires gain strength by indulgence. Like these, stuff look pleasing and great, man, but you got to stay in check, man. You got to keep yourself in check, because once you start, entertaining those sins, it gets worse and worse. It gets harder and harder to break that cycle. And you probably will never break it. And you'll end up in the wilderness. In the wilderness, man. You'll never get to the promised land. You'll just wander around through life, repeating the same exact test over and over again, keep on failing, and you die in the wilderness, man. That is so powerful, man. Just wandering around in the desert. Like, that is awful, man. Awful, man.
Yeah.
And that was Esau's life. Oh my gosh, that is so powerful. Like, we don't even know where Esau was really. We know about Jacob, but where was Esau? Sold his birthright, man. You sold God's blessings. God is, man, your inheritance to be the ancestor of Jesus. Oh.
But man, that goes, yeah. And the funny thing is, like, if you read the verses about Jacob and Esau, you kind of wonder, like, why God is so harsh on Esau. Like, I've heard some people feel bad for Esau. And, like, I feel kind of bad for Esau, too. But, like, Hebrews makes it very clear that Esau didn't receive anything that he didn't deserve. Yeah. Like, he was a very carnal person. This goes back to the earlier 1 Corinthians chapters, where we're talking about, like, what are you building your life on? Are you building stuff that will last? Like, are you building stuff on the kingdom of God, or are you building stuff that is going to burn eventually? Like, what did Esau trade for? A bowl of soup or something?
Yeah.
Man, that's transient. Like, some of our carnal, like, so transient and short-lived. It's like, once it's gone, you think, man, why did I even do that? But, like, we get caught in the moment.
Right.
Like, it's hard to, like, have that eternity on our hearts sometimes.
Yeah. Oh. All right, you ready to go to 11 through 13?
Though it wasn't even anything interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man.
All right, so with 11 through 13, now all these things happen unto them for examples again, and they are written for our admonition. Like, that is powerful because, like, so many people think that the Old Testament is irrelevant and there's no significance with the Old Testament. Even the Bible, like, what's the point of the Bible? It's for your admonition, your edification, for your benefit. Like, just hearing God tell you how to live your life will help guide you through life. You know, like, everybody got all these questions. What should I do? Where should I go next? When you let God speak through his word, you get the revelation you need for life. You get the examples you need to be able to see where to go next. The light, you know, the words are lent to my feet and the light onto my path, man. Yeah, man. So, and that last part of the verse is powerful. Upon whom the ends of the world are come. Like, that is exactly what I just said, basically. So, yeah, and then when you don't take heed, like I think one of the verses said take heed. Yeah, it's verse 12. Like, if you don't take heed to his wisdom and his insight, you're gonna fall. And that's what pride does. Pride leads us to our downfall. And all this just keeps on building, man. Like, and then verse 13 is the best, man. Like, so many people think that um you know, their situation, their life's different than anybody else's. Nobody will understand me, understand what I'm going through. How you can't help me, but God does. Like, he knows, he created you, he created everything. And I, you know, Justin, I saw one verse, some atheists try to use it against me, but I owned it. Like a regular Christian wouldn't own it. But it said that God created the darkness, he created evil, right? If God created all things, obviously he created evil and darkness too. Like, that's debatable though. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't want that for everybody. It's just there. Like, you know, like, but yeah, like, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, have you heard like the phrase or like how the devil doesn't create anything, he just mutilates?
Yeah, yeah.
Like yeah, because I definitely don't think God created evil or he tempts us. Like, that's not biblical.
Yeah.
I do we find ways to mutilate some of the stuff that he's made for us. Like, sex is the prime example I give for us. Like, sex is supposed to be this wonderful thing between two people that God had provided us, but like, it's within the confines of marriage to make sure that we're ready for it, to make sure that we appreciate it properly. But if you don't use it properly, then it just becomes a gateway for lust or a gateway for more carnal desires. So is sex inherently bad? No. Like, that's something God provided for us. Can it be used for bad? Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, water is like a super example too. Like, we need water to survive, but like, you can drown in it if you aren't smart about it. Like, but water is not bad for us. We're 75% water. We need it. So I definitely, sorry, I don't know where I was going with that, but I agree that God didn't create any evil things. I feel like we just it's either us or the devil. We find ways to like screw stuff up or mutilate something that's supposed to be for our good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just want to say too, man, like that verse 13 is always, everybody misquoted and stuff all the time. But like, the first thing I want to say is it's all about temptation. Like, it says temptation 3 times. 3 times. And people use that verse to talk about how God will never give you anything that you can't handle. Like,
yeah.
What that reminds me when Jesus was about to be crucified. Even Jesus, right? When he was about to be crucified, he was in the Garden of Gethsemane and he was praying. He was bleeding sweats of blood. He didn't even want to be crucified. He even told the Father, if this cup can be taken from me, take it. If there's another way, I'll take it. But did God provide another way, a way of escape? Like, no. Like, so, like, some stuff is too hard for you to bear. Like, as in, I feel like, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Just while you're talking about that, I really like that verse because if you notice, that's only when he's sweating blood, that's only described in Luke. And Luke was like a physician, so he could recognize stuff like that. Like, it's not in any other gospels. And I actually looked that up. That's a condition called hematohematosis. So that's when you're like so stressed, like the blood vessels are like bursting and infusing with your sweat. So you're literally sweating blood. So I feel like that shows like not that Jesus wasn't following the will of God or he didn't believe in God, but he was still human. So he felt that mental anguish. He felt that mental stress, but he like followed through. Like, I think we think we can't handle what God throws at us, or we can't handle stuff that life throws at us. But like, I don't want to sugarcoat or downplay what people go through, but yeah, usually we can. Like, with God's help, we can overcome those things.
Right.
But when we get all angsty about it, sometimes we go, well, why did God do this to me? Or why did he tempt me in this way? But it's like, you can handle it. Like, that's a part of our, I like how it ties into like our previous chapter. It ties into how God uses discipline to like refine us, to make us stronger. Like, he doesn't tempt us, but he does allow those opportunities for us to become more Christ-like, to edify us.
Yeah.
So like, if Jesus could endure it, he's like sweat.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah, you went out for a minute, your audio, but I think you're fine. Okay, cool. I want to make sure you weren't talking anymore and there was no lag. But yeah, man, we should totally just do a study focusing on verse 13 sometime. But last thing, yeah, because I feel like we can do a whole lesson with that. But yeah, I'll just talk about the way of escape, man. Like, Jesus is the way of escape. He's the way, right? That's the scripture verse. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. You know, so like, God always provides that way of escape during temptation. This is what this verse is talking about. And like, so many people ask themselves and ask, you know, preacher, just ask people, you know, why am I still struggling with the temptation I'm going through? Why can't I overcome it? You know, when everybody has habits that are bad and addictions, you know, stuff like that, right? So the way you break it is you look for the way. Like, how many times during temptation do you actually look for that way? Like, especially during a temptation. Like, and that's the whole point, going back to verse 6 and 7 and 8, 9, 10. Like, the reason why the Israelites struggled in the wilderness and died in the wilderness was because they continually indulged in those sins that they struggled with. They continually went to those different avenues that were provided that were different than God's outlets, and then they kept on doing it so much that that's all they wanted to do. And like, it's hard to break a habit when you know, create one, right? So like, you got to try not to even create it. But when you do have that, which we all do, because we all been sinners probably longer than we've been saved and all that stuff, right? Like, the old man's a bigger man than the new man, right? So like, they're battling constantly. Whichever one you feed more, it's going to be the bigger beast, the bigger monster. So like, in order for your spirit to win, you got to look for that way of escape every single time. And Jesus is always the way, man. So like, yeah, we just got to ask ourselves, are we looking for that way when it's provided? And can we see when it's provided, or we're so distracted, or do we really care to do that sin so much that that's all we really want to do? You know what I mean? And God, that's the thing, man. Like, God's not going to force his way on you. He's going to let you choose it. That's free will, man. That's love, man. Like, he could force you to take that way. People are like, man, if God loved me, he'll stop me from doing it. But no, like, if you love him, you'll stop doing it. Like, you know, you'll look for that way and take that way that he provides, you know. Like, we got to take responsibility. That's the biggest thing. And the Israelites did it here in this time period with Paul, which is he's about to talk about too. So
yeah, I was oh, sorry, you gonna say something?
I was gonna ask a question, like, how does it look like when you say, okay, when we're tempted, we look for, how do we,
you're
like, we look to Jesus to look for the way, like that? How does that look like in real life?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, what's the application of that?
Oh, okay.
I mean, or maybe explain that a little more.
Okay, yeah. So like, I use an analogy. Like, I saw this analogy and I thought it was pretty cool. They said, like, and I had a dream, man. Oh, the dream was so powerful. I'm not even gonna tell y'all, but it's basically this. Like, so let's say you're an army, you're your own army, right? I'll just describe my dream to you. So I'm in the army. It's me and 1,000 other people, right? And we're all in the Spartan 300 gear stuff. And like, we have like these evil entities coming at us, but they're, oh my gosh, they're so powerful, but like, we can take them, right? So we try to take them and fight them in our own power. But next thing you know, it's just 3 of us remaining, and it's still their whole army, and they're about to take us out. Like, we're totally outnumbered. We can't.
To the end.
Yeah, I'm at the. Yeah.
That's pretty.
So yeah, we're totally outnumbered, and then next thing you know, I'm calling out to Jesus. I'm asking Jesus for help to help me, and I'm just calling out to Jesus. That's it, right? Next thing you know, Jesus comes and He provides a way of escape. He takes out the army for me, right? So I look for a different route than to try to fight what's in front of me or fight something in my own strength. Like all of us have Goliaths in life, right? We have stuff that we continually refuse to like. I don't know, like Goliath's a different story with David and stuff, but like we have an overwhelming monster, something that's overpowering us, something that we can't conquer in our own strength. Everybody does, right? So you have to be able to admit that you can't do it. Like so many people try to fight it, and that's the thing. The Israelites with Goliath, like they were looking at stuff physically, trying to fight it physically. When David looked at it spiritually, like that's the only reason why David could take out Goliath was because, and that's the only reason why we can win any type of battle is when we put our strength on Jesus. So what does that look like is like I wonder what I think it looks different for everybody, like that way of escape, right? And it depends on the temptation, but the way of escape, like for me, is women. But like the more I stay in the Word and the more I'm with other believers and in Bible study, and I just have responsibilities and I focus on my calling and God, what God knitted and crafted me to do, and I'm just doing His purposes. I'm good. But the minute I think about it and I think about the other stuff I can be doing and I start pursuing it and make steps to do it and start pursuing other things, that's when I stumble. You know what I'm saying? But like we kind of been talking about it, man. Like it's hard to read the Bible 24/7. Like that's what Paul's talking about in 1 Corinthians 9 and 8. Like, I beat my body, I bring it under submission. Like that's not easy to do. Like sometimes you just want to watch What If and you want to watch you want to watch shows and stuff. You want to have a good time. Like, and sometimes you want to sin. But like sometimes you got to say no to what you want. You know what I mean? Like it takes discipline. That's what I'm saying. Like it takes a lot of self-control and discipline, and that's on you to figure that out. Like there's so many avenues and ways to beat your body, bring it under submission, bring it up. You dictate and rule your body. Don't let your body rule and dictate you. And so whatever that temptation is, like, yeah, you gotta beat it up. Don't let it beat up you. Like you gotta fight. It's a fight, man. And so many people fight the air. Like, we're fighting all these other stuff when the real enemy's is you. So like, yeah, like man, it's so deep. Like that's such a deep question. Like that's another study, man. Like that's what I'm saying. We should just do a study on it, man. Like
yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, just because we can do something doesn't mean we should.
Yeah, and that's coming up too. But yeah, like you won't be able to bear that temptation if you don't take that way of escape. That's verse 13. That's how it ends off, man. You want to bear that temptation, you got to take the way of escape. Jesus is the only way for us, right? As believers, like, and that I like how you said, what does that look like? Like, I wonder what I've been saying. Like, what is He telling you to do with your temptation and stuff? Because that's literally Him answering your question. Like, because for me, I know what to do. That doesn't mean I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Like, because that goes back to what I was saying. It takes. You have to want to do it, and it takes so much discipline. Discipline is a hard thing to have. Like you can have discipline in so many areas, except for the area you really need it in. So like, yeah, like that's such a profound, yeah. Justin, did you have anything with that?
No, I had a little bit of something like back what you're saying about free will. Like sometimes when we do things that we're not supposed to, or like when bad things happen, like we always ask God, why didn't you like step in? Or in extreme cases, it's like some people don't believe in God because they wonder like, why did He let Hitler happen? Or why does He let like the earthquakes and the tsunamis happen? And it's like, I remember reading something by C.S. Lewis, and he was talking about systems, like a closed system. Like if we truly wanted a system in which we could grow or have choices for ourselves, we can't be interfering with the system all the time. Like if God stepped in for every bad thing that we did, like he would never be not in our lives pretty much. But like because He wants us to like learn things on our own and to grow in Him, like we have to be left to our own devices to well, not to our own devices. His Spirit is still always with us if we accept that, but that's why He leaves us to our own choices, so that we can learn, okay, this is something that God wants me to do, or oh, this is something that God's not going to bless. So I really think we have to take that into account when we're hit with those temptations or hit with the consequences. Is what can I learn from this? Or was this a consequence or a circumstance? Was this just something that life threw at me, or was this a consequence of something that happened to me and I need to own up to it?
Yeah.
But I do like how you were saying, like, God gave us free will because he loves us.
Right. Yeah. And like, I was going to say something else. I don't remember, but here goes the point I had, man. Like, you basically have to expect a way of escape. Then you'll begin to look for a way of escape and find it and take it. You know what I mean? Like, how many times during you're struggling with sin, like whatever sin entices you, do you actually say to yourself, like during that moment, like when you're about to do it, you're like, man, let me go ahead and go. Let me, you're like, does that thought come in your mind? Let me go ahead and just go to my Bible, go to my word. And is that the only way to spend time with God? No, like, let me pray. Like, let me ask God to, let me ask for his strength. Like that takes discipline, that takes surrender. That's humbling yourself, man, denying yourself. Like, that's deep, man. Like, with every temptation, like just imagine if you did that, like you literally just stop, like you wait, they call it the 5-second rule or something, like you literally just stop before you're about to act and do that thing. You're like, man, God, is that, can you help me in this moment? Like you just pray and ask. That's what I was saying. Like I had a dream one time, I told you about the army and everything, it's about to overtake me, it's 3 of us left, and like I just prayed and got called out to Jesus. I just kept on saying Jesus. I said it like 50 times, like Jesus. I had my eyes closed because I just felt like they were about to stab me or something. But like something in, like as soon as I realized they haven't stabbed me yet and killed me, so then I look and Jesus is just as big as the sky, and I finally see Satan. He's as big as the sky too. And then Jesus literally just takes his pinky finger and goes like that and slices Satan's neck, and then he falls down and tumbles on a big old mountain, and it's like that, but his head's decapitated. And then we done won the whole war. Like it's only 3 of us left. We're taking out, we're fighting this whole entire entity army that's just swarming us, and then we got Jesus on our side. But we just won the whole thing. Like, and that's what it is. Like, no matter the battle, no matter how big that Goliath is, man, you can win, but you can't win without God, without Christ, without his power. It takes him to win. Like, so that's for everybody. Like I struggle with sin too. And like, man, and I've done it before. It'd be different. I never did it. I feel like most believers that are mature in the faith, that's continually growing, they've done it before. But it's about doing it again in a new season, in a new arena, in a in another area of life. Because yeah, we all got struggles in different areas of life. So yeah, man, like verse 13, man. Oh my gosh. I hope I answered your question, y'all. Like we answered it.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
That's very encouraging.
All right, cool. I feel like we should just do the other verses another time.
Yeah. Pull from one verse though.
What you say?
That's crazy how much we can pull from one verse though.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Like I just want to stay there, man. Like there's so much to pull from that. Like, because there's so much we need to know. Like during that temptation, we feel like we're alone. That's the biggest thing. Like we feel like these temptations, like because some temptations are just hard. You know what I mean? Like we feel like some are worse than others, especially the one that you struggle with. Like you feel like that one's just the worst, right? Out of all of them, because you struggle with it. But then it says God is faithful, but God is faithful, man. Like we think we're alone, but God is with you through those temptations, man. You're never alone during the battle, during the war, during the temptations. Like, how many times do you say that to yourself? Like, we be believing lies in our head, and that the world's telling us, like, you gotta fight, like you gotta do it. Like, no, God is there to fight you. Like, I posted a picture on my Instagram page, all the time on my Instagram page. I always post a picture that has something, or have a quote that has something to do with, like, you can't do it in your own strength. Like, I can do all things through Christ. Like, that is so powerful. Like, because like you have to be able to admit that there's some things you can't do, like that only God can do. And like these Corinthians, man, they were cocky, like they were arrogant and confident. How many Christians do you know today they're confident and like just prideful and haughty. They think they can do anything, say anything. Like, and Paul's like, man, if you feel like if you're like that, man, just you're about to fall. Like, you're about to stumble. Like, first of all, to even get out of temptation, to not struggle with temptation, you got to humble yourself. That goes back to verse 12, man. You want to keep on fighting stuff yourself and doing it yourself, you're going to die in the wilderness, just like the Israelites, man. You're going to be beaten. Some of them died from serpents, biting them, and some of them like went into the actual earth because like, Kara, Moses' cousin, tried to overtake Moses, for carnal reasons. Like, he wanted to be ruler of the Israelites. Like, like, because they committed fornication and stuff. Like, yeah, it keeps on going, man. But man, I love this chapter, man.
Yeah, I really like verse 12 where it says that like anyone who thinks that he stands, I think that's kind of like me too, or like maybe a lot of Christians nowadays, because like it's so easy to try to do things like thinking that, oh, I got this, like if only I do this, I will be able to make it. I can happen, like I can resist the temptation by doing all of this things, and by doing the right things. It's I don't know, sometimes it's just like, I don't know, like I acknowledge, like I know that, okay, I cannot do this on my own, like I need Jesus. But like it's just like my first action.
Yeah.
Like my
your first reaction
is, okay, let me do this right, or let me do the right thing. And I don't know, it's hard to like be fully like relying on God and to like just be like, hey, I cannot do this to get that point.
Yeah, it's really easy to think your gift that God's given you are your own gifts. It's easy to think, man, I've worked for this gift. I definitely have this. But like, that's not being coachable. That's not allowing you to be taught by God, because all of us can still constantly learn. And I definitely think God will humble us in some way to show, no, that gift isn't your gift. That's a gift that I've given you.
Yeah. When y'all said that, man, I just thought about how, you remember in 1 Corinthians 8, it started off saying knowledge puffeth up, but love edifies. Yeah. Oh my gosh, like we know from the scripture that God is love, especially as believers. We know that love wouldn't exist if God didn't exist, because God is love, right? We'll talk about that in 1 Corinthians 13 and talk about it in detail. But like 1 Corinthians 8, man, like the Corinthians and so many Christians, even people in general who aren't Christian, man, they think knowledge is power. They think knowledge is everything. Just because I know something, I can accomplish something. So we ask people who struggle with the temptation that we struggle with for their knowledge as to how they broke it, how they overcame it, when they're not, they don't have the same conscience as you. Like, everybody's conscience is different, and everybody is weak in a different area, in a different way, and they fight battles differently, right? And only person who can provide that way of escape is Jesus, to give us that type of wisdom, to give us the knowledge we need, the love we need, to edify us in the knowledge. You know what I'm trying to say, man? Like, that is so deep, man.
That reminds me on Facebook saying, I'm gonna rewatching all the Harry Potter movies with friends, and like, of course, like a couple of my friends, I don't hold this against them, but some of my Christian friends are saying, oh, the Bible, like, not to like be looking into witchcraft or magic and stuff like that. And honestly, I think that misses what the verses were talking about.
Yeah.
Because that's back when people were like depending on astrology or magic or whatever instead of God. Like, if those verses were written nowadays, like, it would be saying, don't lean on science or knowledge and stuff like that. Not to say, and I think that the point of that is like science and like technology isn't inherently bad. It helps a lot of people, but we definitely feel like that intelligence or knowing more about technology is our God now. Like that takes place as our God in our head.
Right.
So we have that priority. Like the main point of those verses and the main point of don't letting knowledge puff you up is that that's not supposed to be our God. We're supposed to lean on God.
Right. Yeah, and that goes back to just our this, you know, these examples were written for us, man. Like, where do you get who do you trust more, Google or God? Like Google or the Bible? Like that is so powerful. Like we should do a series called Google or the Bible, because you already know, man, most people trust Google over the Bible. Even Christians trust Google over the Bible. Like
we need like a Godle or something that gives us Christian.
Yeah, man. Oh man, this is powerful, bro. Like I want to talk about verse 7 too, because like if we're just gonna stay here in these verses and end off, I want to go back to 7, 8, and 9 because I didn't get to talk about it really. But like with 7, man, one thing my dad used to always say to me is play now, pay later, or pay now, play later. Right?
Yeah. That's a good one.
I'm gonna say it again. So play now, pay later, pay now, play later. Like, and that's how successful people think, man. Successful people think, man, if I grind it out right now, if I work my tail off, I'm gonna be able to relax later. Like carnal people who are pathetic, like unsuccessful and like don't care, like they play around, they play games, they live to sin, live to party, woo, laughing it up, like do things to make myself happy now, right? Spend the most money I can now. I won't have money when I'm old, like because you don't think about that. Like, you don't think long term. What's expedient? What's really beneficial for me? What really has significance? Like nobody thinks like that, really. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, man. Like I'm gonna read verse 7. Did you have anything you want to say before I?
No.
Okay.
Go for it.
So verse 7 says, "Neither be ye adulterers, as were some of them, as it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose to play." Man, like I read that quote to you, but like Hebrews 11:25 says, "Choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season." Like these things that's enticing us, man. We've been talking about it all the time, especially with 1 Corinthians 7. Like the time is short, man. And like this world and its fashions is passing away, man. So the bowl of soup only lasts for a moment. You're gonna eat it up, like, and there'll be nothing left from it. You can have something that you can eat and it lasts forever, which is Christ. It's Jesus, right? The bread of life, right? So like he's the only thing that's gonna satisfy you. And like, man, like if you suffer for him now, oh my gosh, the joy we'll have later. Like, and that goes back to what Paul said, like in Romans 8:18. He said, like, I consider what we suffer at this present time. Can I compare it all to the glory that will be revealed to us? He says it continually through all his writings, man. Like, oh my gosh. I'm like, we see in Matthew 24:37-39, Jesus even said it. He said, like, you know, don't, you know, the end days will be like in Noah's time period when people were laughing, getting married, you know, fornicating, eating and drinking, like just lolly-da. And then next thing you know, the flood came. And they were warned continually, like they were warned continually that the flood was coming. But water, they didn't even know what a flood was. They didn't know what rain was, right? It never rained before. And that's like the coming judgment. Like we don't know about the horse. We ain't never seen horses in the sky flying. uh you know, Jesus in the cloud and angels coming out. Like we don't, that's crazy, right? Like so stuff like people mock and laugh at it and belittle it and think that it's okay to sin and stuff. But that goes back to James 4. We did a study on that. That's when you first joined the group, Justin. Like, you know, be afflicted and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to heaviness. Like this life ain't pleasing. Like you should be struggling for the Lord, toiling for the Lord, not living for yourself, denying yourself. Like that's another way to break temptation and break bad habits. Like deny what you want, fight it, like beat it up. Like don't let it beat you. You should be mourning over it. You should be, you know, you should be in tears. You should be weeping because it's so hard. But yet you love the Lord so much. Like, and then you'll have joy later, right? Like people ain't gonna have joy when they're a drug addict and got to go to like rehab, and then they destroy their families, destroy their marriages, destroy their kids, struggling with porn. Man, that leads to so many avenues. Like I've done so much research on it, and now it's puffers up. It don't do anything, right? So like, still struggle with it. But like with porn, like serial killers are all addicted to porn. They all admitted that. Like from what I've seen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Like I need to do more research, but that's what I heard. Like Ted Bundy, I think he said he was addicted to porn. Like, so he just serial killer. Like, you know, like it could lead to anything. Like, because porn is such a broad avenue, man. Like, it could lead to you becoming homosexual, being raped, or like that was lead to become homosexual a lot of times. Like being raped, or you know, you guys know what I'm trying to say. Like, sin can lead to more sin, and it can lead to darker places. Like,
oh yeah,
it can lead to mourning in the end. Like, it may be fun, but like that kind of fun ain't fun at all. Like, you know, we want to have the kind of fun that God wants us to have. So, yeah, did y'all have anything y'all want to say? I'm just talking now.
No, I just like that Paul is like trying to address some of their carnal desires, because like, man, throughout the chapters we just see the Corinthians try to they're in the danger of like causing more sin, as you say. Like they're stuck in such a cycle, because like Corinth was such a business savvy, prosperous place. Like it was easy for sin to fester and for more sin to fester. Like Paul had his work cut out for him, because he had to address all that sin all the time. Like I'm sure, I don't know what all he heard, but I'm sure he's addressing like specific cases that he's actually hearing.
Right.
Some of the churchgoers who are like committing idolatry or sexual immorality and all that. So again, like I like how there's a constant buildup. It's like showing us the context of what the Corinthians are going through, that they are stuck in that cycle of sin. Because like you said, like some sin just begets more, like much more sin. Like if we don't get out of that cycle, we're gonna get stuck in it. Like it's like Martin Luther King Jr. like saying you can't fight darkness with darkness, you have to bring in the light. Like same thing, we have to bring in God if we want to break out that cycle of sin.
Yeah, man. Like did y'all ever see like a preacher? I wish I had a hat. I need to make a hat like this. Bae, I need a hat like this, so I hope you make it for me. But like there's a preacher, a lot of preachers do a sermon analogy on this. Like they have this big old hat, like, and they have like different strings of temptation on that hat. So like it'd be like a naked Barbie doll. It'd be like a Barbie doll's clothes from the naked Barbie doll that's right here. And then it'll be like a purse, you know, from the naked Barbie doll. Or it'd be it's just basically all the temptations that man struggles with on that hat. And it's right in front of you. Like, you know, like if you turn around, you move around, it starts moving in front of you, all from in all directions, right on the hat. And that's how we that's our life, right? And like there's a bait. Like everybody is being baited by the devil and by serpents. So it's by death. Like we studied that in the book of Proverbs a little bit. Like we should totally do Proverbs, man. Like Proverbs, like with the immoral woman and the crazy woman, the prostitutess woman, whatever you want to call her. Like she would take men and tell them what they want to hear. Tell them exactly what they needed to hear, wanted to hear. Not even what they needed to hear, what they wanted to hear. And then lead on the dark avenues. What do you say?
Yeah, not what they wanted to hear.
Yeah, man. So and it led to like their downfall. And a perfect example is Samson, man. Samson had all the power in the world. I feel like every believer, I don't care if you got a handicap or a defect or anything, but especially if you don't, like if you can talk, walk, and you are able to work and everything, man, you are Samson, especially as a man. Like you can conquer the world. Like you can do anything. God gave you that power. But like our temptation, the temptations in front of us, whatever sin entices you the most, or just everything, can just overwhelm you and lead you to your death. It can lead you to not accomplishing anything for God. It can lead you down dark avenues, not in God's will, in His way. What you finna say, Justin?
I was just saying, yeah, holds us back.
Yeah, man. So like, there's consequences for sins, man, and the sins are destroyed of serpents. Like that's what got me, man. Like verse 9, neither let us tempt Christ, as some of them also tempted and were destroyed of serpents. Like people think God's gonna save me from this temptation if I keep on doing it. Like I'm just gonna keep on doing it till God does something. Like we have to take responsibility. We have to take ownership. We have to fight, especially as men, but women too. You're gonna have to put on your bootstraps and fight one day. Like, and every single day in life is a fight. Like life ain't easy. It's not a cakewalk. It only gets harder. You never know what temptation's gonna come, what struggles in life's gonna come. You're not gonna be able to take all of them. And you really can admit that and know that when you know your sin and you know you can't fight it no more and you can't stop it. You can't win against it. Like you can only do it in God's strength, right? And so one of the quotes I had was murmuring against God's disposals and commands greatly provokes him. So like complaining about his commands and his regulations and just the way he has, just the way he's guiding us through life and telling us how to live only makes him mad, man. And like, actually that goes with verse 22 as well. But like, but yeah, man, like God's a jealous God, man. And like when we are entertaining idols and worshiping them instead of focusing on God and doing what he wants us to do and living for him and just worshiping him, there's consequences for that, man. And like you'll be destroyed in the end, just like the Israelites were in so many sins. Like Paul lists so many of them. Like, so yeah, okay. I've been talking too much, man. But
Some I thought about was that as you were talking, sometimes like the enemy like it tempts us in ways that's very subtle. So it's not like it tempts us to do this big thing, but like something that's very small. I don't know. I can't think of an example, but like how you spend your time and like just like because like what you spend your time on, that's your idol, that's things that you worship, and it might not be a big sin, but anyway, I was just thinking about like how sometimes that's how the enemy works. Like he started with something small and you into like bigger things.
Yeah, we actually talked about that in a previous chapter, I think, where sometimes a sin will be like, oh, it's a small deal. And I think the example we used was like looking at a woman lustfully, like taking a second glance just at a woman. And you, not that I do it, don't pinch me, but it's like our culture says, oh, it's all right to look. But then next thing you know, you're like looking at some pictures on the internet. The next thing you know, you're like getting a little more addicted to it. And those sins just like build up. Like we may think that they're small potatoes, but like it does build up. Like that does take a toll on our spirit.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I don't think I do that.
See, those who think that they can stand are the ones that will fall.
Yeah, I know I'll fall. I recognize that. Nope, got it.
Right.
See, I was saying how God humbles me, but Yao keeps me humble too, just in case.
Right.
I hope Maya keeps you humble too, Sean.
Man, she does, man. She just...
There you go. Hey, that's a blessing.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, she keeps me humble in a different way, though, man. Like, she makes me want to be... we gotta take that offline, man.
Yeah, but you can edit that.
It's in a good way.
There you go.
Here goes John, man.
Oh, hey, man. How you
What's up?
doing?
Good, how are you?
You met Yao?
Oh, what?
That's his girlfriend.
Hey.
Yeah, John, this is Yao. Yao, that's Sean's brother, John.
Oh, hey, John.
Nice to meet you.
Who do you think's older?
What's that?
Who do you think's older, y'all?
Yeah.
I cannot see your brother.
Yeah.
You
Put
can't
your
see
face.
him?
Put your face in.
Yeah.
I can see half of your face.
Okay,
Oh.
yeah, come closer because she's on the phone.
It looks like you like each other.
Got it.
Uh,
Yeah, what do you think?
I think maybe show older.
Oh, okay. I wonder if you would have.
Right?
Yeah, I wonder if you would have said that we're in person.
Honestly, if you'd asked me, I would have thought John was older though.
Yeah.
As Yao got it right.
Long story short, one time we went to a hotel and the person there asked for John's ID and credit card. I looked at her so crazy, man. John was only like 20 or 19 at that time. I was like, his ID and credit card, I was like, he's a high schooler.
I can pass for 18 and 29. It's great.
Man, my younger brother is the opposite. Like he looks young. He just has good genes, I guess. But like they'll ask for his ID like all the time, and he's almost like 30.
Mm-hmm.
But like he was getting in for like 12 or younger prices when he was like 18 years old in high school. So I guess that's a perk.
Yeah, he can still go to Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah. We went with my nieces. We don't let age keep us from going to Chuck E. Cheese's.
Right. I want to go more, man. Like, I feel like Maya's shaming me and going. She won't shame me. She will never do that.
Also,
You go just to eat the pizza that's not even that good. It's okay pizza.
the pizza's not even that good.
What are y'all crazy?
What about the games? I thought you'd go for the games. Who goes to Chuck E. Cheese's for the pizza?
I'm not wasting no money on no games I can play for free online. The pizza's fire though, man. I just got good memories with the pizza when I was younger. I guess that's what it is.
Chuck E.
I've never.
I need to take it sometime. That'd actually be a lot of fun for a day.
Man, let's go tomorrow, man. If she's still in town, let's go to Chuck E. Cheese. I'll go on your end.
Are you in?
Yeah, I'm in. Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, our plans got canceled
Yeah.
Oh,
this
for real?
night. I'll be down there. I'll text you later about it.
All right, cool. Let's do it.
It's funny.
All right. Did y'all have anything else y'all wanted to say with this?
Yeah, sorry we went down a rabbit hole.
Oh no, you're good. I'm gonna stop the recording if we all done. But did anybody else have anything they want to say? Like I know we didn't talk. I feel like we like with verse 10, man. I was gonna say something, but I could just be done.
I do like how some of those are like it ties back to like some of the things Jesus said as well.
Yeah.
Like it's saying like so it says do not murder, but if you've had anger towards a brother, like you're still considered a murderer. I like some of these, it's like don't grumble. Like that doesn't even seem like that big of a deal, but grumbling can lead to just the wrong kind of mindset. Or like getting up to indulge in something can like lead to something as well. I like how it's like not all of this is serious stuff, but it does pile on. Like it's stuff we need to take seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what the Greek word is for murmur in verse 10. Because we know what we just said it, man. Like with murmuring, complaining, it leads down a rabbit hole. A bad attitude in life. What does a bad attitude in life do? Like bad attitude versus a positive attitude. Like and like especially with God, it'd be different if God didn't do anything for you. But the Israelites had no excuse. Like you had God's presence with you. You saw so many miraculous miracles. Moses just mentioned the Red Sea here. He didn't even mention the plagues that they saw with their own eyes, like that we talked about in the book of Exodus. Like he didn't mention none of those things. Like they experienced way more of God than we'll probably ever experience, right? And they in the sense that they saw it, like they saw it with their own eyes, and like so a good example, like you know they were always saying, you know, what has God done for me today? So they're murmuring and complaining about always having the same manna in the book of Exodus. They were complaining about always eating the same food from heaven. Man, we don't eat manna now. Like, and then the thing was they didn't trust God would provide the next day. So they would put some of the manna in their pockets and it would mold overnight. Like, cause God had new what do you say? What do you say?
That would be me. I say food all the time.
Right, me too. But God will provide manna again the next day.
Yeah.
Like, and he always did, right? So there's no
Right.
But yeah, it was so much, man. Like they had so much distrust. Like when he provide water, Moses would always hit a rock and water would come out miraculously. Like they always had water. They never did not have water. They never starved or thirsted in the wilderness. And if they did, God gave them exactly what they needed right then and there. And then like that's so crazy because like, you know, instead of focusing on that, focusing on all the good things that God has done and remembering that and letting that strengthen their faith, they would just complain and blame God for their circumstance. Like, I'm starving, I hate you, God. I'm in the desert, I hate you, God. Like, what kind of God are you? Like, I'm gonna worship a calf and want to worship a calf like people did in Egypt because they had it good. They had food. It was really good in Egypt. You know, we were slaves. Like, that is, oh my gosh, some even believers are like that, man, in some kind of way. Like, and we can never miss out on an opportunity of just being in the present and enjoying the blessings that we're getting right now from God instead of like looking back like Lot's wife, you know, and becoming a pillar of salt. Like that stuff goes so deep, man. Like, but yeah, that's all I want to say with verse 10. I think I'm good, man.
Yeah, I think I'm good too.
We can build off that. Can y'all see Maya's video?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Y'all can see Maya's video and I can't.
Can I see?
Just you.
Oh, that's crazy.
What?
We could see Maya the whole time.
Guys.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that ain't right, man.
They told you it was you. It's not me.
That is weird.
It's you. It's always you. I see everybody else's video but you. Can you see me? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop.
Meaning it's you.
Whatever. I'm gonna stop the video. I'm in the recording.
There you go, Sean. Yeah,